Have you ever noticed how some people seem to drain all your energy just by being around? Jung said that this vital force is what drives our lives, and when it gets drained, we're left without focus, without motivation, and even without joy. In this video, I'm going to show you the 5 types of people who drain your energy the most, and more importantly, how to protect yourself from them. Some are easy to spot, others are well disguised, but they all have one thing in common: they leave you exhausted. Stay with me until the end, because the last type is the most dangerous of all. You know that person who turns every conversation into their own private show, who constantly needs applause, praise, and validation. Well, this pattern is one of the biggest drains on your energy. You start off as a friend, but little by little your energy gets drained day after day. Every time you share something about your life, the subject quickly shifts back to them. If you celebrate an achievement, they rush to talk about their own, even bigger victory. If you open up about your struggles, they flip it into their personal drama. This kind of behavior traps you in the role of a captive audience. You leave the conversation feeling drained, as if you had worked for hours without rest, even though all you did was listen. So how do you protect yourself? Keep your answers short. Don't feed the spotlight and set clear time limits. A simple phrase works. I can talk now, but only for 10 minutes. That way you show up, but without handing over all your energy. Another strategy is to redirect the focus without playing along. I get it, but going back to what I was saying, another powerful tool is to practice strategic silence. Instead of giving more attention than you want to, use pauses, neutral expressions, and avoid reinforcing exaggerations. This shows, without arguing, that you won't be an endless audience. If the person insists, change the subject directly or end the conversation naturally. I need to go now, let's continue later. Over time, they realize you're not fuel for their vanity. And remember, attention is a choice, not an obligation. The people who truly need you will respect your space. The ones who only want a stage will eventually go look for another audience. You know that person who speaks as if they were chosen, enlightened, or the bearer of an absolute truth, who places themselves above others, as if they had exclusive access to some special knowledge. This is the pattern of the archetype inflated personality, and being around them can drain your energy quickly. You enter the conversation expecting an exchange, but soon realize they don't want dialogue, they want devotion. Whenever you question them, the answer comes loaded with authority. You don't understand because you're not on my level. They position themselves as savior, leader, or master, and any disagreement becomes an offense. Deep down, they demand that you surrender your autonomy to feed the grandiose image they've built for themselves. This behavior traps you in the role of a follower, someone who must always agree in order not to lose the friendship or the bond. In the end, you leave the encounter diminished, doubting yourself, while the other person grows stronger by feeding on your energy. How to protect yourself? First, don't fall into the trap of reverence. Instead of accepting everything, ask practical questions. What evidence supports that? How did you reach this conclusion? This simple shift breaks the aura of superiority and restores critical thinking. Second, stay grounded in reality. Evaluate concrete impacts, timelines, actual results. Don't let grand words replace facts. Another strategy is to avoid symbolic pacts. Don't make promises of loyalty. Don't enter vague commitments, and don't accept exclusivity of ideas. Maintain your freedom to hear other sources and, above all, to decide for yourself. If the conversation starts turning into indoctrination, end it politely. I respect your view, but I'll stick with mine. And remember, autonomy is non-negotiable. Those who truly hold wisdom do not demand blind followers. Those who insist on presenting themselves as chosen are, in fact, dependent on an audience to feel special. You know that person who always has a new complaint, but never takes a step to change their situation. Who repeats stories of injustice, misfortune, or bad luck, demanding your attention without ever taking responsibility. This is the pattern of the eternal victim, and living with it can drain your energy like few others. You enter the conversation wanting to help, but leave exhausted, with the feeling that nothing you said or did was ever enough. This behavior is easy to recognize. Everything is someone else's fault, nothing depends on them. If you suggest a path forward, you get a yes but none in return. If you offer support, they find an excuse not to act. Repetition is what feeds this pattern. Each venting session without action is more energy you give away, until you realize you've become a free therapist or the savior of a never-ending story. The problem is that by trying to rescue them, you activate your own savior complex. And that's the invisible game. While you give your time and strength, they keep their victim role intact, reinforcing the cycle even more. In the end, you carry the weight while they remain stuck. So how do you protect yourself? First, return agency with practical questions. What is under your control right now? This breaks the narrative of helplessness. Second, offer help only when tied to action. I can go with you if you schedule the appointment. This way you support movement, not lamentation. Another strategy is to set time limits. Instead of hours of repetitive listening, keep conversations short and objective. If the story doesn't change, be direct. We've talked about this many times. What do you plan to do differently now? This prevents you from falling into the trap of the vicious cycle. And remember, compassion does not mean carrying others on your back. Supporting is valid when there's mutual effort. If someone only wants an audience for their complaints, your energy is better invested in those who truly want to grow and change. You know that person who lives in constant crisis, who turns every little detail into a tragedy, and who always seems to be in the middle of a storm? This is the walking drama, and being around them is like riding an emotional roller coaster with no seatbelt. You enter the conversation expecting something simple, but end up drained by outbursts of anger, sudden tears, or exaggerations that take over everything. This pattern shows itself when small problems become catastrophes. A 5-minute delay turns into abandonment. A neutral comment is taken as an attack. Everything is amplified, and you inevitably fall into the role of emotional firefighter, putting out fires that never end. The exhaustion is enormous because the walking drama demands that you live at the same intensity they do, and if you don't play along, they may accuse you of being cold or lacking empathy. So how do you protect yourself? First, don't get carried away by the emotional excess. Take a deep breath. Keep your tone calm and avoid reacting at the same level. Second, practice assertive redirection. I understand this is important to you, but let's talk when things are calmer. This prevents you from being dragged into the whirlwind. Another strategy is to define how far you're willing to go. Offer support, but with clear limits on your time and energy. If you notice the crisis is repetitive and without practical action, say, I can listen for a few minutes, but then I need to focus on other things. This shows care without sacrificing your own balance. And remember, empathy does not mean drowning in someone else's drama. You can be supportive without letting their intensity consume your peace. Those who truly value your presence will learn to respect your limits. You know that person who never says what they really feel, but leaves hints, sarcasm, and cutting remarks hanging in the air. The one who says I'm fine in a tone that clearly means the opposite. This is the passive-aggressive type, and being around them can be one of the biggest drains on your energy. You enter a conversation seeking clarity, but leave feeling confused, guilty, and even as if you've done something wrong without knowing what. This pattern shows up in small gestures. Constant lateness as a form of protest, promises intentionally left unfulfilled, long silences used as punishment, or compliments that always carry hidden poison. Deep down, it's a disguised form of aggression, one that wears you down because it forces you to decode hidden messages all the time. The problem is that when you accept this game, you end up spending huge amounts of energy trying to figure out what the person really meant, what was behind the remark, or how to avoid the next sabotage. It's like walking on eggshells, always alert not to trigger an invisible irritation. So how do you protect yourself? The first step is to name the pattern calmly. I sense irony in what you said. Can we talk more directly? That simple phrase shines a light on the behavior and cuts part of the hidden game. Next, bring objective clarity. Set deadlines, responsibilities, and very specific criteria. Instead of "help me later," say, "I need this ready by tomorrow, can you confirm?" Another powerful strategy is to close loops. If the person doesn't respond, you move forward with your decision. For example, if I don't get confirmation by 6 p.m., I'll consider it approved. This frees you from waiting and from their hidden control, and above all, don't mirror their behavior. If you respond with sarcasm, you reinforce the pattern. Stay clear, direct, and objective. And remember, healthy communication is based on clarity and respect. Someone who prefers indirect remarks over dialogue is showing they're not ready for a mature relationship. Your energy should not be wasted decoding emotional riddles. If you want to protect your energy, start with 2 simple steps. Recognize the person's pattern and set a clear boundary. There's no need to argue or justify yourself. Just show how far you're willing to go and hold your ground. If the person respects it, great. The relationship can adjust. If not, walk away without guilt. Your energy is the most precious resource you have, because your mental clarity, your emotional strength, and your ability to live in peace all depend on it. When you learn to care for this energy, something powerful happens. Your relationships become lighter, you free yourself from roles that are not yours, and you discover you can live with much more dignity, presence, and authenticity. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Take care.